Welcome to Game Theorem, where we have serious discussions about absurd entertainment.
What a pointless internal power struggle. Public officials are so worthless. Leo, the boss of the Mad Burnish.
We're talking about Promare today. It's an animated movie in an anime style by the same studio who did Kill la Kill and other anime. So, yeah.
Yes. And so, full disclosure, there is already a better analysis than this one out there on the internet.
Yeah.
So there's this YouTube user named Joystick, and she has an amazing video and analysis on Promare. We found out about Promare by watching her video. And when we saw her analysis of it, when we saw it was made by the same people that made Kill la Kill, we were like, wait a minute, we should check this out.
Yeah.
And we did, and we loved it. And we needed something to do a deep dive on this week, so we decided to do Promare because it was still really fresh in our minds.
Yep.
Now, we wanted to do full disclosure about that because inevitably her analysis is going to color ours to some degree, particularly because we think she was just so right. And we're not intentionally trying to plagiarize anything she's doing. So we're going to drop a link to her video in the description of this podcast episode. Consider it a source, I guess.
Yeah.
But we'll try to do our own talking about it and whatnot. You know, we're going to do it from a chronological timeline, as we always do, right? And yeah, we'll talk about the themes of this anime. And admittedly, it's different than most of the other anime we do because it's not like an episodic TV series. It is just a movie with 2 prequels, but it's so dense that we were able to get a whole timeline's worth of material for it.
Yeah.
So, any other stuff you want to say about it, Kira? Like why you like the anime, maybe?
Well, we watched this because you came to me and you're like, okay, so I heard about this awesome thing by the creators of Kill la Kill, and I think it'll be amazing, but I'm not going to tell you anything about it because I don't want to spoil it for you.
Right, I only showed you Joystick's video after the fact.
Yeah. And then we watched the shorts and the whole movie together, and I'm just so happy that you heard about this. Honestly, it makes me feel like we might be missing out on other really good anime.
Well, I mean, there's so much stuff out there to watch.
Yeah.
Although sometimes do you feel like you wish you knew Japanese?
Yep.
But yeah, so anyway, it's really cool because it's basically overtly political.
Yeah.
Because Studio Trigger, the studio that also made Kill la Kill, has some stuff to say, would you know it? Kill la Kill is basically about how fascism is bad. Promare is about how... Should we come out and say it?
I mean, we should probably say it later on when it becomes clear.
No, climate change is bad.
Okay, then. Yeah, it's pretty much overtly about climate change.
Yes. And again, Joystick goes over this. But one thing that it does really well is talk about how climate change specifically affects minorities. So anyway, let's start talking about the actual story. Let's get in universe.
Yep. Over 30 years ago from the start of the movie, a dimensional rift opens up in the center of Earth, and alien creatures resembling sentient flames are transported through the rift into the Earth's center.
These alien creatures begin to bond with specific humans, which causes them to develop pyrokinesis. Or rather, it's more like they try to bond with all the people, but certain people are just more susceptible to it. When people first develop these powers, it is triggered by strong emotions that cause flames to explode from their eyes and mouths. This causes a large amount of death and destruction in the initial moments.
These pyrokinetics are called the Burnish, and a scientist named Days Prometh researches them with a team of scientists, finding out about the dimensional rift, and names the sentient flames Promare.
The destruction caused by the Burnish's awakening causes the world to oppress them as if it's in any way their fault. this is exactly how the real world would react. You had to put that note in there.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's really interesting because like this all happens within the first few minutes, right?
Yeah, it shows you the burnish awakening and the flames and stuff. And within 4 or 5 minutes of the movie, hearing about the burnish being oppressed, I turn to Kyle and I start yelling at him about how this is exactly how the world would react if something like this happened. Because we never learn anything from history, and we're always gonna be oppressive dipshits to anything that's new and scary.
I mean, yes, but like when you see it, like you see people just going about their lives, and all of a sudden they catch fire and whatnot. It causes a lot of destruction, property damage, and of course loss of lives. But we know where the governments really care, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, I guess it just gives a certain group of people an element of power, right?
Yeah.
And I think that metaphor kind of works because I think this event basically upsets the balance that the authorities have over the minorities, right? But instead of just like weakening the authorities' grasp on power because everyone's melting, I mean, no, that's not what climate change. I was shorthanded, and we're not melting.
Yeah.
It's just literally like we have pyrokinetics now.
Yep.
Anyway, Deus appears on television as the expert on the burnish and begs the world to try to live in peace with them, but of course the world doesn't listen.
Yep. Just like the real world would.
Yeah, but here, because it's a similar sentiment where he's a scientist that's the expert on fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people were probably like, well, what do you mean live in peace with these people? You're a scientist. Don't tell me what we should do with living with people. That's not a science. That's just your political opinions. Get your politics out of science. And I just imagine like scientists advising global or national policy obviously have to step outside the realm of science into the realm of politics to do policy. That's how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And don't you want scientifically informed policy? Promare allowed us to get a lot of frustration out, so apologies, listeners, if you have to listen to that. Unless you like listening to it, because honestly, that's why we did. This was all about venting for us. Venting, fire, there's a joke in there somewhere.
Eventually, the Burnish get sick of being second-class citizens and decide to burn it all down. This event is called the Great World Blaze.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how that went down because it does skip over it pretty fast.
Yeah, so it's possible like the Promare encouraged them to burn things or whatever. But honestly, they're probably protesting and like fires broke out and like.
I mean, it's very clear there was a global government or multiple government crackdown on the Burnish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like major oppression and violation of rights, and it just seems like the Burnish fought back, and the end result was half the world caught on fire. It accumulated to that point. So a lot of the information of exactly the mechanics of how that went down got lost after the fact.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's a huge death toll with that. Now, this event eventually will get blamed on the Burnish, that the Burnish were the ones that caused the Great Blaze. That they were just so evil they burned half the world, because it's basically erased from history, from most people's minds, that they were the targets of persecution that led to that moment. Right?
Yeah. After this event, the world rebuilds, and Deus does a lot of research into ways to keep people safe from the flames. He discovers that the magma in the Earth's core has become more and more volatile as time went on, due to the Promare reacting to the Burnish's pain. This magma will cause the Earth to be unlivable in about 30 years.
Right. So what we're seeing is only the initial fallout. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So keep in mind, we said this is happening 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And it says in 30 years, it's gonna cause a climactic, world-ending event.
Mm-hmm.
Foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
The Burnish continued to be oppressed, and a group called Mad Burnish formed, which was a biker gang of Burnish trying to protect newly awakened Burnish and be a safe community for Burnish to just live their lives. Because even so, as time goes on, more and more people awaken and resonate with the Promare.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know you're a Burnish until it just kind of happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
And your entire life crumbles before your eyes.
Yep, because suddenly you're an oppressed class.
Yeah, suddenly you're a minority.
Yeah.
So while most of the Burnish imagery makes it related to race, this one specific aspect makes it more akin to like being trans or LGBT in some way.
Oh, yes, because, like, you start presenting as that, or you realize it,
No. But you get outed.
Yeah, that's what, sorry.
And you may not have even known it yourself.
Yeah, exactly, sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant, is that, like, there's something that outs you, so that other people know that you're that, and suddenly you're treated as a minority by other people.
Right. But in basically every other respect, it's effectively treated as a race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And by that, I guess I just mean that there's a lot of bigotry.
Yep.
A lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
The kind that we see in our most modern day, in our real world, usually reserved for race. Mm-hmm. Not that we're going to play Oppression Olympics or anything, but anyway, that's the bigotry we're dealing with.
Yep. Cray Forsyth, a college student working under Deos at this time, becomes a Burnish and his power overflows, causing a fire to break out at a house and for him to lose an arm.
A child named Gallo runs out of the burning house, and Cray spins this as him being a hero that saved Gallo from the fire.
From this point on, Gallo idolizes Cray and dreams of becoming a firefighter.
So since we're doing this in chronological order as opposed to like movie presentation order... Oh, by the way, if you wanted to watch Promare, I guess just do the prequels, do it Gallo, then Leo, and then the actual movie. Mm-hmm. That's the best watch order. But we're doing it in chronological order for the purpose of this podcast, to get like an in-universe perspective of the story, right? Mm-hmm. And so with Cray, the idea of him originally being a Burnish, considering what comes later for his character, let's just say he takes a big part of society. Mm-hmm. It's a bit weird.
Yeah,
it's part of the weakest element of the metaphor to climate change in our society, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Because it's basically saying he's part of the minority.
I guess, but he hides it.
Yes. So if we're doing the LGBT thing, it kind of reads as he's like a closeted gay man suppressing gay rights. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of a stereotype. And it's the weird kind of stereotype that it has happened before.
Yeah.
We have clear, concrete cases of this happening, but often I think people use that to try to just attack gay leaders for being gay as opposed to being, bad leaders. Yeah. Or just leaders, right? Yeah. Now, if we take it as race, though, it could possibly be a bit more profound than that. Mm. He could be almost like an Obama-type figure.
Oh, like one of the good ones,
Well, the model minority kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where, like, being a member of the minority, technically speaking, but still furthering the power structure of the majority is a thing that just sadly happens. Mm-hmm. And it is people choosing to align their interests with the majority at the expense of other people that face their same oppression or face the oppression that they would have otherwise. It's like tokenizing, right? Mm-hmm. And I use Obama as the example because he's just the quintessential example in our American society for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not only that, but I do think the Obama analogy is particularly apt considering he was, president for 8 years, and climate change got a lot worse under his administration. Mm-hmm. Like the Standing Rock protests, it's not directly climate change. I mean, nothing is directly climate change. Everything is indirectly climate change, right?
Yeah.
But, Obama had a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Although, no, that's too kind. And I can't help but think of that, considering that Cray is a burnished, which to me seems more anime plot twist as opposed to really furthering the metaphor.
Yeah.
But I do think seeing him as like a tokenized person with indoctrinated prejudice, like a woman might have internalized misogyny.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's probably the most charitable reading you can have of the situation.
Mm-hmm. Like Susan Collins voting for Brett Kavanaugh. That's a good example.
We are not talking about Supreme Court right now. We are not talking about that.
It's too soon.
What is time?
Okay. Deus tries to find a solution to save the Earth and discovers the burnish can be used as an energy source strong enough to power a warp drive that could take them off planet. However, using the burnish in this way would cause the Promare to become almost explosive, destroying the planet prematurely.
Now, I don't want to skyrocket past this, because the movie doesn't really go too deep into this, but it's heavily implied that this idea to use the burnish as a fuel source for this particular purpose, like, this is an in-game scenario. Like, literally, it will destroy the planet if they decide to do this. Mm-hmm. This is only possible if there was a pre-existing industry or science in the idea of manipulating and using burnish energy.
Yep.
Which means Deus was building on top of pre-existing science at this point. Mm-hmm. That exploited the use of burnish energy as a fuel source. Mm-hmm. And then it was, turns out we could use all of it and save the Earth? ? Mm-hmm. At the cost of the Earth itself, but they could escape it, right? Mm-hmm. So I just think it's important to talk about how, like, literally the burnish are being exploited as an underclass for fuel. Mm-hmm. Does that sound familiar to the idea of, like, I don't know, exploiting indigenous people for the resources that they happen to have? Or maybe labor for a capitalist system?
Mm-hmm. It's a very exploitative, and yeah, I can see how you would, it has to have built off of previous research to know that you could even use the burnish flames this way. Cray Forsyth, who was working closely with Deus at this time, finds this out and murders Deus before stealing all of his research.
So he murders Deus because Deus wasn't going to go along with it, because the planet destroying thing is obviously ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Right. So why was Deus even doing this research? They never really explained that, did they?
I think he was just trying to find any way to...
Oh, he also was the Promare scientist.
Yeah, so it's possible that he figured this out without ever intending to really use it.
True, and we don't even know for a fact that he even published the research, because Cray only found out about it because he was working with him. Deus might have...
actually, we know for certain that only him and Cray knew about this.
Well, I guess the question was he planning on publishing it?
Oh, I see.
But he never got the chance, but I don't think he was going to even do it. Mm-hmm. And that's probably why Cray got upset and ends up killing him, stealing his research for himself to use. Mm-hmm. Or at least maybe someday.
Yeah.
Deus, however, had predicted Cray's betrayal and had preserved his consciousness inside a secret supercomputer base under an ice lake. Now, how this is also another kind of anime twist that happens later on in the movie.
That you don't know how this happened. Let's see. Let's just keep going.
But you went. No, I don't know if he predicted specifically that Cray was going to betray him, just that someone would, that he'd be killed, right?
So he came up with the backup plan, which, yeah.
Right. I mean, imagine like how many public figures have there been in our real world where they do something really valuable. They the cards fall in their hands. They know some important information, and they go, "Oh, I'm gonna be killed for knowing this."
Oh, fair enough.
Like, I don't know, like Jeffrey Epstein stuff kind of comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Not because they're good people or anything. Obviously, they're not.
Yeah.
But because they happen to know something that's very inconvenient for people in power.
Yep. All right. Over the next 30 years, Cray used Deus's research to start his own company, the Foresight Foundation, and became very successful.
He uses his success to systematically oppress the Burnish even more, using them for experiments and energy in hopes of creating the warp drive someday and saving humanity by using it to transport a spaceship to the closest Earth-like planet. He plans for this ship to hold only 10,000 people and to become the savior of humanity. Did you mention in the notes here what the planet was called?
Oh, no.
It was Proxima Omega in the Proxima Centauri system.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's science facts.
Is that a real planet that exists?
The planet's fictional, but the Centauri system is real.
Oh, okay. Cray also uses Deus's research to develop terraforming and other advanced technology. However, since he has already given up on saving Earth, he doesn't even try to develop technology that would stop the magma.
Yeah, several characters point out the hypocrisy of this. That, like, couldn't you use that? Couldn't you use that? Couldn't you use that? Mm-hmm. He's unwilling to even try. Mm-hmm. He uses his reputation as a hero and position as CEO of Foresight Foundation to build a city called Promopolis? How do you pronounce that?
I don't know how to pronounce it, actually.
Promepolis. To build a city called Promepolis and rule over it as governor. During this time, he founded a firefighting group called Burning Rescue and a police force called Freeze Force. So now he's CEO and governor. Mm-hmm. It's like President Business from the Lego movie. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's a huge CEO, billionaire president. So, I said the Obama thing, but now I'm thinking Trump. He's also a white man with blonde hair. How did I not see it? He is both Trump and Obama combined. He is all the problems.
That's hilarious.
Just imagining like a Dragon Ball Z fusion.
Mm-hmm. Hilarious.
Fascism and apathetic liberalism combined make climate change.
Wow. The Mad Burnish are labeled as terrorists by Cray and used to make laws so that he can use the Freeze Force to systematically imprison Burnish so he has a large amount of them for experiments.
Oh, yeah, there's even one scene in the movie where they arrest a Burnish for being a terrorist. And they're like, but he literally wasn't a terrorist. He was just walking along. And the policeman's just like, that's for the courts to decide. Mm-hmm. Which is just like, yeah, policemen just literally have a right to do whatever they want. And the courts are supposed to sort it out later. Does that happen? Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. Because also the police can't be wrong in court, literally. It's like... immunity. It's...
Come on. This is also the ACAB movie.
Basically, yeah. Gallo grows up and passes all of his tests to become a firefighter, his dream. He is very interested in old Japanese culture, mainly their firefighters who used matoi to fight fires. He's really into... He's a Japanese history nerd.
Yep.
Like, I know we talk about anime, the idea of like nerds for Japanese anime. Not that I don't want to use the word nerd too harshly, but when someone's just like really into that. Mm-hmm. But we're watching an anime where there's a character in the anime who is really into Japanese history. I don't know, it's just something you don't really see very often because it's not like they're in Japan or Japan doesn't exist anymore. It's a completely new political structure, right? Mm-hmm.
Crave places him in burning rescue personally as a way to get rid of him because being a firefighter is dangerous.
So he just gives him the most dangerous job in the hopes that he'll just die and he won't have to worry about having an acolyte or an apprentice or whatever.
Yeah.
At this time, Burning Rescue contains the Captain Ignis, the Vice Captain Remy, the firefighter Varys, the technology expert Lucia, and the pilot Ina.
On Gallo's first day, a fire breaks out at a Forsyth Foundation pharmaceutical lab, and he goes with Burning Rescue, but is told to stay in the fire truck because it's his first day.
Lucia finds a woman is still trapped in one of the facilities, and Gallo decides to go save her, covering himself in extinguishing gel and using his Matoi.
Gallo saves this woman and brings her outside, where she awakens as a burnish, burning his left arm, resulting in him wearing a medical sleeve on his arm from then on.
I actually didn't notice that detail.
I didn't notice it either, but I liked it, so I put it in there.
That's an amazing detail.
Yeah.
Character building. Burning Rescue immediately shoots their freeze guns at her, but the woman is taken away by the two Mad Burnish who started the fire before they can do anything. So this is really interesting, because when you see the Mad Burnish destroying this building, it's like, oh no, bad guy arsonists? What?
Yeah.
Firefighters save the day, right? And they're very cartoonishly villains, right?
Yeah.
But then, after all this time of rescuing this woman, turns out, oh, she's one of them. Immediately, they just pull their guns on this supposedly, innocent woman. Or rather, we've seen that this woman is innocent, that she had nothing to do with it. But because she's one of them, all of a sudden licensed to shoot. Mm-hmm. That is disturbing. I also think it's very interesting that, oh, this was just a little fire at a pharmaceutical place. Don't worry about it. It's not like this building was specifically targeted for political ends. No, they're just terrorist arsonists hurting your local family pharmaceutical industry.
This is Gallus' first time learning of Mad Burnish, and he vows to extinguish them.
Ugh, he doesn't know better yet.
Yeah.
The two Mad Burnish, Gara and Mace, take the newly awakened Burnish woman to the abandoned gas station where all the Burnish refugees are currently living and explain to her that she suddenly mutated into a Burnish and that she can't return to her old life anymore. Alright, so you didn't mention her name, Kira, but her name is Thyma.
Yeah.
I think she's actually a really fascinating character because she's basically the audience surrogate for what a Burnish goes through throughout the whole journey of discovering you're a Burnish.
Yep. Suddenly, Freeze Force finds them and violently kidnaps the Burnish civilians. Yara and Mace fight back but are in trouble when suddenly a very powerful Burnish named Leo shows up and saves them. Yara and Mace are going to kill the leader of Freeze Force after Leo helped them gain the upper hand, but he insists on them not killing people, and they flee with Leo and the other Mad Burnish.
Yeah, so they take the Batman approach, basically, where they're like, oh, we're gonna try to be good guys, and we'll fight the system, but we won't kill innocent people. What does innocent mean? They don't say. Mm-hmm. So it's honestly a little naive. Also, Leo's a cool character, but genuinely, I was caught off guard by the fact that Leo was a man.
Yeah.
Because Leo has very kind of, I don't know if effeminate's an appropriate word, but they're not your typical masculine attributes.
Yeah.
Long hair, that kind of thing. So I was a little disappointed because I was thinking, wow, there's so few female characters. And, Kill la Kill had so many good female characters, right? Mm-hmm. So I was a little upset that we wouldn't get any strong women, right? Mm-hmm. And that is true. That criticism is valid. Yes. But there will be a payoff to that. It's up to you whether it's worth it, but I'm just saying there is a payoff to that.
Yeah, all right.
Gira and Mace introduce themselves to Leo now that they aren't in mortal danger and thank him for saving them. He tells them his name and that the Burnish shouldn't kill people. The two agree and pledge to not kill people and appoint Leo as their boss. This is a little weird. So he becomes like the boss of Mad Burnish, like he's their leader, but it's very consensual. Mm-hmm. Like people just follow him because he's good. He never really imposes his will.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're going to have a leader, I think it's probably the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. But it's not super organized. Mm-hmm. He's more of an influential figure.
Yeah. Sometime later after that event, but 30 years after the Great World Blaze, Mad Burnish starts another fire, and Burning Rescue is called to the scene. Ignis mentions that Mad Burnish's leader has been on the run for 30 years.
Which is ridiculous because he was literally just appointed.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Yeah.
Like, there probably isn't even that much time between the shorts and the actual movie.
Right.
Yeah, because those previous events were in the shorts, and now we're getting into the actual movie.
Yeah, the only point you were trying to make is that it has now, like, officially been 30 years since the Great World Blaze. Mm-hmm. Just shy or something.
Yeah.
Remy and Varys use the rescue gear to save the people in the building. Leo, Gira, and Mace appear on the roof, and Gallo is sent to deal with them. So, another arson incident.
Mm-hmm. He fights Gira and Mace, but is almost defeated when Lucia sends him the new experimental Matoy tech she had made for him, and he uses it to defeat Gira and Mace.
Oh, right, we should have mentioned, mechs everywhere. The firefighters use mechs.
Yeah, the rescue gear is a mech.
Yeah, the police use mechs. This is mech anime.
The Burnish make their own armor, and those are kind of mechs.
Yeah, because their fire's like magic, and they can like even turn their fire into a solid form. Mm-hmm. So, and then they use it to make these cartoonishly villainous appearances.
Yeah.
And I guess that helps them in the fire or whatever. Also obscures their identity, so.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like a mask. Mm-hmm. Leo then starts fighting Gallo, and Gallo breaks off part of Leo's Burnish armor mask and is surprised by how young he is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, after all, the propaganda said he had to be in power for 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Gallo is losing the fight when the other Burning Rescue members come in and help him out, defeating Leo.
With the top 3 members of Mad Burnish captured, Freeze Force shows up and the leader of it, Vulcan, tries to take credit for the captures.
Gallo challenges him, insisting that Burning Rescue deserves the credit, and Vulcan threatens to imprison him.
Ignis steps in and challenges Vulcan, who lets Gallo go. Freeze Force leaves with the captured Mad Burnish and takes them to a prison. It's also worth noting that they literally brutalized the Burnish for fun on the way. Mm-hmm. Like police brutality and stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is also where we get that amazing line from Leo that we used at the beginning.
Yeah, because
Leo just doesn't care about like the firefighters versus the police. He's like, you're all my enemy. Mm-hmm. One more than the other, sure, but still.
Mm-hmm. A few days later, Gallo is given a medal by his hero, Cray, and Burning Rescue goes out for pizza afterward at their favorite pizzeria. They discuss Ina's sister, Eris, who is a scientist that works for Foresight Foundation, and the discrimination the Burnish face. They all insist that the Burnish are people just like everyone else.
Freeze Force shows up and arrests the cook of the pizza place for being Burnish. Gallo and Ina try to argue with Vulcan, but the cook is ultimately taken away. Again, he says that's for the courts to decide. Mm-hmm.
The other patrons see the cook being arrested and start complaining that their pizza was made by a Burnish. This enrages Gallo, and he drives off on his motorcycle to cool off.
This was actually a great societal, world-building scene. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, saying that they were complaining about the pizza is a little understating it.
Yeah, they were being blatantly bigoted towards the Burnish.
Yes. Literally the moment they found out their pizza had been made by a Burnish,
they said they might as well have served us garbage.
And they treated it like garbage, throwing it on the ground and acting like they wanted to vomit.
Yep.
Again, I think this is why the race metaphor holds particularly well, because that's something that has been very, very common with regards to race, acting like your food is literally tainted.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Ina follows after him to make sure he doesn't get in trouble, and is surprised that he's just hanging out at an ice lake to cool off.
Meanwhile, the 3 Mad Burnish that were captured finally arrive at the prison and break the other Burnish out. They get a helicopter and fly away, eventually settling in a cave on the side of a mountain by an ice lake.
Gallo and Ina ice skate for a bit before they see a streak of fire in the sky. Gallo tells Ina to go call it in while he checks it out.
They also have this weird romantic moment where it looks like he's going to kiss her. He doesn't. Mm-hmm. And it's not clear whether he showed any romantic interest in her or if it was all just in her head.
Yeah.
But it never comes up again.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk more about that. She leaves and Gallo goes to where he saw the fire land. He comes to a cave where the Burnish are hiding and is knocked out by Leo.
Gallo's tied up and Leo tells him that they're eating. Gallo's surprised that the Burnish eat and Leo calls him out on his prejudice.
It literally thinks they're monsters. Mm-hmm. One of the Burnish prisoners, the woman that Gallo saved on his first day, Thyma, is very injured and Leo tries to save her but fails and she dies, turning into ash. So we literally see her transformation from ordinary citizen to, finds out I'm a Burnish, gets captured, gets imprisoned, gets rescued by the anti-fascists, and then gets captured again, tortured and experimented on. They escape again, and she dies from the fallout of her torture. Mm-hmm.
Leo,
that's what it's like to be a Burnish. Sorry.
Leo explains she was killed by the experiments Cray has Foresight Foundation perform on the Burnish, but Gallo refuses to believe it at first.
The Burnish leave and Ina finds Gallo untying him.
Gallo then goes back to Promepolis?
Promepolis.
Gallo goes back to Promepolis and returns his medal to Cray, insisting that he tell him about the Burnish experiments.
This was very intense. You don't expect the character just to go straight up and confront the big person in power. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also because he legitimately doesn't think Cray is guilty. He's like, even if this is true, you must have a reason. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be true, right?
Yeah.
But he knows too much now. Cray realizes Gallo won't go away without an answer and explains the situation with the magma at the Earth Center and the spaceship designed to save 10,000 people.
Cray takes Gallo to show him an experiment, and Gallo sees that Eris is the head scientist. She runs the experiment on the pizza cook, killing him. On the pizza cook that was taken earlier.
Extracts the energy out of him and burns him up in the process. Mm-hmm. Gallo insists that they can find a way to stop the magma and save everyone, but Cray reveals how much he hates Gallo and imprisons him to get him out of the way. So basically, Cray gave him one chance, fine, I'll tell you everything. You good? And Gallo's like, no, actually. And Cray's like, all right, time to get rid of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A week later, Eris gives him a meal and unlocks his cuffs, telling him she knows he won't hurt her. He challenges her for working with Cray, and she says that she'll do anything to keep Ina safe.
Oh, she is so complicit.
Yeah, and Cray promised Ina a spot on the ship. Then she leaves after Gallo questions whether Ina would be okay with Eris doing this.
Burning Rescue finally finds out Gallo was imprisoned, and Ina goes to ask Eris what happened. She tells Ina she saw Gallo attack Cray with her own eyes.
Meanwhile, Freeze Force finds where the Burnish are hiding out near a volcano and tries to capture all of them. One of the Burnish, an elderly man, held onto trackers so that the Freeze Force could find them in the hopes they would spare him. The elderly man sticks an absolute zero bullet on Leo, but he is then betrayed and frozen with the rest of the Burnish.
Yeah, it's it's like when a minority group helps out fascists in the hopes that will give them some type of penance or something, and it's just like, no, you know who they're betraying first, right?
Yeah. So
the old man got betrayed because that's what was always going to happen. Mm-hmm. Gira and Mice fight Freeze Force and sacrifice themselves to shoot Leo into the nearby volcano, being frozen right after they use their powers to create a cannon and shoot him to safety. Also, by the way, being frozen, that's how they nullified the Burnish. They put them in these little frozen pods.
Mm-hmm. Leo lands in the volcano, and while the frozen Burnish are being taken away, the absolute zero bullet freezes him more.
So he has his own personal prison. Eventually, the volcano's heat helps him break free of the ice, and he melts it all, then takes the absolute zero bullet off of him. So much for absolute zero.
Leo creates a fire dragon around him and goes straight to Promepolis, threatening to burn the city down if Cray doesn't give himself up. He has given up on not killing Cray.
And not just not killing Cray, like he kills probably hundreds of people in this.
Yeah, he kind of goes on a bit of a rampage.
Yes, and because up to this point, it was like, oh, we're not going to kill innocents. And it's just like, who is innocent? What does that mean? Is Eris innocent? Because she just killed a man. And it's like, it's just a lot more complicated than that. And Leo's just like, you know what? Fine. Forget innocence. You're all going to die unless you stop torturing us. But he does go after Cray specifically, just not caring about casualties. And given all the stuff we've seen so far, I don't blame him.
Yeah, this is like, I'm going to kill fascists if they don't stop genociding my people.
And yeah, it kills a lot of, I guess, innocent quotations, people, bystanders and whatnot. But also they're living in a city that's profiting off of the torture and exploitation of his people. It's not great, but also I'm just, it's ultimately for a good cause.
Yep. Gallo is freed by Leo's rampage and runs to find Burning Rescue to fight the fires.
Burning Rescue is called to fight the fires Leo is starting, and Gallo catches up to them. They give him his Matoi tech, and he is shot to where Leo is confronting Cray on top of the Foresight Foundation Central Tower.
Gallo tackles Leo, and Aina flies up to them, catching them in her container helicopter.
They fight briefly, and then Aina drops them into the ice lake that Gallo went to cool down.
Cray starts the process of getting the spaceship ready to launch, and it detaches from the rest of the city. He tells Eris to start the engine, and she insists they wait until Aina is on board. But he insists that they can't wait for one person. Eris goes to the room controlling the engine, and all the Burnish are placed to be used to power the warp drive, which will genocide the Burnish out of existence. It's literally a genocide machine.
Because it specifically exploits and kills a minority. And I don't know if it will specifically kill them all in one go. I imagine it's supposed to be enough fuel to last for the ship's existence, right? But still, literally every Burnish of this oppressed class is put in the fuel compartment to be burned to power the ship, right? I really like Harris as a character, even though I kind of loathe her. I just also kind of relate.
Yeah.
Where she's like, no, you don't understand. I've only been able to sleep at night because I've been doing this all for a singular person. And you're saying that was all a waste, in vain? That she's not even going to be able to make it on the ship anyway? And it's just like, oh yeah, all of your cruelty had no point. It's almost like the cruelty was the point, and you fell for that. Isn't this fun? Leo's heat evaporates all of the ice, revealing Deus's secret base where he kept his AI.
Deus's AI introduces himself to Gallo, Leo, and Aina and invites them inside the base.
The AI explains to the three of them all about the dimensional rift and the Promare, as well as his research. He also shows them footage of Cray murdering Deus and explains Cray's plan. So this is where the backstory, a lot of it is kind of exposited pretty quickly to help you understand. After all, the scientist had been dead for a while, so now the scientist is just explaining it.
He then reveals that he made a mech to combat Cray in the event this happened and shows them Deus Ex Machina, asking Gallo and Leo to pilot it. I flipped my shit when he said the name.
Because literally every mech has a name, right? Like, here's my mech, it's called the blah blah. Here's my mech, it's called the blah blah. So when Deus shows up and he goes, here's my mech, it's called Deus Ex Machina. And it's just like a complete acknowledgement that this did kind of come out of nowhere at the end of the second act.
He also blatantly says, they ask him, what would have happened if no one found the space? And he's just like, well, guess the world would have gotten destroyed.
Yeah. But I like that because he's specifically saying, like, you're not like the chosen ones or anything. Like, I don't even think this is a bad twist. You might be like, oh, hand of God moment, but I think it reveals how close we are to the tipping point. That humans surviving is not guaranteed. The world surviving is not guaranteed. It is something we need to work for. And in this world, just like ours, humanity has failed. Humanity has completely failed at meeting this challenge. So what would have happened if we didn't show up? The world would have burned. You made it here just in the nick of time. Consider yourselves lucky.
Yep.
But also, it's not like you're the chosen ones. You're just the three people that happened to get here right before time ran out. Good job.
Yep. Gallo and Leo get into the mech and fly it to the front of Kray's spaceship.
Ina sends the video of Kray killing Deus to the spaceship and Harris sees it. She briefly talks to Ina before Kray cuts off external comms and he insists she turn on the warp drive. This is also when we realize that Kray is just a complete compulsive liar. That basically nothing Kray says is genuine until, I guess, maybe later on when he rants a bit. But, like, she's like, did you cut off the comms? And he just goes, no, I didn't. And, like, he does it completely straight face. It's none of this, like, over-exaggerated acting crap where it's like, no, I didn't. Haha, wink, wink. No, he just says, no, I didn't. But it's obvious if you've been paying attention that he clearly was the one responsible.
Yep. Eris has the engine run on full all at once, destroying the core.
Yeah, she overloads it, basically. So it looks like at first she's doing her job, but she's actually doing it too much.
She then leaves to find Ina, and Vulcan tries to find and chase her.
And keep in mind, this means that the burnished in the core, at least a good majority of them survive the overloading. Although I imagine not all of them could have made it through that.
Maybe she just has them run for a small enough time that it...
I mean, look, we don't have the mechanics of like, okay, does it use like 1% of every life at once and then go to the second percent? Or does it knock off a few lives? And like, we don't know how the genocide machine works, okay?
Yeah.
But my point is that, you know, that costs lives. Gallo and Leo confront Kray, who gets into his own mech, Krazor X, which Gallo named because Kray's like, why do you name your mechs? And then they fight.
They fight and Kray's mech is broken, but he manages to get Leo and Gallo out of their mech as well.
Kray grabs Leo to use as the engine core, and Gallo fights him. Leo uses a special flame on Gallo to protect him, as Kray is now using his burnish powers. This causes Gallo to mutate into a burnish, and he goes after Kray.
Kray takes Leo to the engine core and traps him, starting to use him as the core, which brings him almost to the brink of death.
Gallo uses his new fire powers to defeat Kray, and gives Leo a CPR kiss, saving him. Is that how you had to write it?
That's what it's called.
Is that really?
Yeah, they call it the burnish CPR kiss on the wiki.
No, but you know actual medical training. What is it?
Yeah, that it's called CPR.
I know what CPR is, but does
They
CPR call it?
They don't like to call it a kiss now.
Okay, that was my point.
Yes.
Although the movie definitely does portray it in a romantic light. So it's almost like the CPR was the excuse for kissing.
I ship them so hard.
This is the payoff. Yes, there's a gay kiss, and it's a gay couple. Gallo and Leo are kind of a thing, even though we can talk more about that. But yeah, this is the gay scene of the ACAB movie. Which, considering it was made by Kill la Kill, you know, or Studio Trigger, you know what I meant. Leo and Gallo then ask all the Burnish to help them save the Earth. They all contribute flames to them.
They then use the core of Deus Ex Machina to form a new mech called Gallo de Leon, using it to punch the Earth and spread special protective teal flames.
This ends up letting the Promare leave the center of the Earth and closes the dimensional rift. You might be like, special flames? Think of it this way. The fire that the Promare have the ability to both create and destroy. They can destroy and, arson buildings, right? But they can also create and form, like, literal fire mech suits. So the idea is that by, like, working together and uniting, they were able to burn in a way that literally was, well, I guess to borrow a term from Joystick, constructive. Leo and Gallo land back on Earth, Leo's flames leaving him with the Promare. The Promare being gone means there are no more Burnish anymore. Everyone is normal or whatever.
Burning rescue Leo, Gallo, and all the others resolve to rebuild.
And that's the end. Now, so society gets destroyed. So any movie with society getting destroyed sounds pretty great to me. But
Leo and Gallo fist bump after this end.
okay, let me. I'll get back to that. I just wanted to say, with there being no Burnish anymore, that almost implies like they literally succeed in genocide.
I guess. But the people survive. It's just they don't have their Burnish powers anymore.
Sure, but I feel like, if we go with the gay narrative, it would be like if all of a sudden you purged gayness out of the world.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what we're going for. I think that's taking the metaphor a little too literally.
Yep.
I think really more, like, the people that were the Burnish live on. They just don't have the literal fire to them anymore. I definitely think there would still be a cultural rift there, and I think they could obviously still work together and everything, but I do think that there will still be kind of that identity of like, oh, I was a Burnish, even if I don't literally have fire powers. I could see it as kind of like an analogous to Jewish, maybe, in that respect. But the point is that the bigoted society is gone now. And so that hopefully they can unite and, build anew. Maybe build something better that's not built off of the exploitation of an underclass. Don't just rebuild what it was before. That beats the whole point.
Yep.
This is actually something I have with an issue with, like, post-apocalyptic fiction. Whenever it's like, oh no, society nuked itself. What should we do? Rebuild it exactly as it was. Problem solved. The nuke thing was just a fluke. It wasn't, the inevitable end result of contradictory policies held by a contradictory system that prioritized nuclear weaponry over the lives of actual people.
No, of course not.
So let's talk gay.
So Leo and Gallo fist bump after the ending, and it pissed me off because it would have been so great if they just kissed at the end.
I don't think I've ever seen more, I guess the word tension, but tension can have multiple meanings. What's another word for tension that's more hostile? Rivalry?
I don't know.
Malice?
I guess. I don't know.
War? Conflict. I have never seen more conflict over having gay characters in a movie before this. Because it is so clear that multiple people involved, some of them wanted gay characters, some of them really didn't. And I'm almost certain I know exactly how that went, but it's completely a guess.
Because, like, Gallo and Leo are portrayed as such a duo the entire movie. Especially when they're doing the mech suit and working together. Like, they're just such the obvious couple.
I'm willing to guess that it was the studio, the people actually making the anime, that were really pushing for them to be gay. But it was some type of producers or higher-ups or publishers that really wanted to clamp that back down. And it's really unfortunate and offensive. And I guess we can talk about how that manifests, like you were saying, Kira. Effectively, there is the gay kiss, and it's definitely shown as romantic. They are shown as a duo the whole time. They work together. Well, I mean, not the whole time. They were at odds at first, but then they bond together and they work together to save the world together. Like, literally, they share a machine and they share fire together. Like, sharing fire, like, that must be intimate for Burnish. I don't know, but then they have that kiss. And that's great. And it's definitely portrayed romantically. The camera zooms in on it, But we got to talk about the drawbacks.
for a second after the kiss, Gallo freaks out, and I really thought that he was going to be freaking out about kissing Leo, but
No, he was just freaking out about the fire.
yeah, he was freaking out. He was freaking out about having birdish powers, and it's great.
But no. So the drawbacks are, first of all, the kiss is done in a CPR context, which immediately gives any homophobes a reason to not take it seriously. Because like, and I say homophobes to not take it seriously because you could be like, oh, it's a CPR thing. It wasn't even romantic in the first place, but it was so clearly coded as romantic that the CPR thing just seems like a justification to get the gay to happen, you know? And not only that, but it's literally sandwiched by platonicness. There's the end scene I told you where they do the fist bump, and it's like, you went from a kiss to a fist bump? Are we getting divorced? like what is that?
Yeah.
It was borderline insulting. And then before the kiss happens, Gallo has that inexplicable romantic scene with Ina.
Yeah.
Which goes nowhere. They aren't even that similar. Like they don't like they basically are just colleagues. That's the only thing they have in common. And it really feels like the fist bump and the scene with Ina could be completely cut out. Could be completely cut out of the movie with there being nothing absolutely lost. So I wager they were added in last minute to try to clamp down the gayness. So if you want to make a homophobe unhappy, whichever homophobes were responsible for these decisions, embrace the gayness, ship Gallo and Leon. They are a gay couple. It's Gallo and Leo. They are a gay couple. Embrace that. Shout it from the rooftops. These other things were obviously padding, red herrings to distract you from the truth of the gayness. And they are amazing. They are a couple. Don't let anyone take that away from you.
Yeah. Because Gallo is the firefighter with a burning spirit, and Leo is what did they call him? Ah, gosh. Leo is literally fire, and they just are so cute together.
Leo is Gallo's boy toy. Is that the way to use that?
Funny.
That's not offensive, right?
No, it's fine.
All right. Well, we're done here.
Because Leo's definitely the bottom.
Check out our Twitter theorems.
Bye.